In Homestead, Florida, stands one of this generation's megalithic structures, built by a single man named Ed Leedskalnin. First in Florida City, he relocated the entire castle to Homestead, Florida, where he completed the work. Frequently compared to the pyramids at Giza, the heads of Easter Island, and Stonehenge, we look at Coral Castle. One giant question remains. How did he build this? The only first-hand accounts that we have of other people watching Ed work is only at night, where he has been said to sing to the stones that now make up what he called Rock Gate. Many of these single pieces of rock weigh over 1,000 tons, and the question remains, how did he do this? We explore this question among many other questions about the nature of our reality, hidden technology, mathematics, and the world energy grid. Come along with me on this journey as we look into just how Ed Leedskalnin created Coral Castle. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Yissel Missile Productions channel. My name is Steven Yissel, and today we are continuing our deep dive into Coral Castle and Ed Leedskalnin. We have a chapter to complete today from Anti-Gravity in the World Grid by David Hatcher Childress. Again, these are books that are very well researched. This was done in 1987. So we're looking at 39 years research here. Like, that's how long ago this was done. But it's a compilation of many different people. They've spent their entire lives researching the energy grid. And it's all compiled together in this book, which we're covering in this section of the series. So we split a chapter in half the last time we were here. Let's see. It was a Bruce Cathie chapter, Mathematics of the World Grid. So we're going to continue from there. We're just going to start on page 96, and we're going to read through it. I can see here. Page 96. That's all I'm trying to show you. Right up there. This is what we're going to be looking at today. It's all a bunch of the small print, which gets under my skin, but whatever. It just means it's going to be a longer read through because there's more words to read. And there's more diagrams as well. But thankfully, it's only 10 pages today. So even though it's smaller print, we should fall within the 2 hour or less time frame for this episode. So thank you everybody for being here today. I know it's been a little while. I needed to take care of a few things, and life happens. I have I work for myself, so I have several streams of income that I need to make sure is that I'm on top of it, and that's what I had to do. So that's what I gave you guys an update like at the end of last month that everything's okay here. I was just stepping away for a little bit, but yeah, we will jump right in here shortly. Let's check the chat here. I see Missing Time 420's here, and Andreas is here. And yeah, Missing Time, I know you are Jason or John. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I do still intend to get all of the members only stuff up, so just bear with me. Like I was saying before I took a break, I was trying not to get burned out. And we did this show for nearly a year straight, with taking a week or two off here and there. And let's see, I think we're on part 33 today. So there's a lot of different things here we're covering. It's going to be a lot of math, but we will get through all of it today. We'll finish that, and next week's episode here on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. Make sure to try to catch that one, because we'll be talking about the Philadelphia experiment here on the Coral Castle Deep Dive. How cool is that? And that experiment, there was a movie made about it, but there's a long paper trail that this thing actually happened. So, anyways, let's see here. Missing Time says, I've really been surprised how many people never heard of Coral Castle when I tell them about it. Yeah, I mean, I found it looking... I was doing research at the time looking at the stone circles in Africa with Michael Tellinger, because Michael Tellinger was putting videos out for a while about 10 years ago. Actually, it's longer than that. Now it's probably 12 years. But it was always something that was in the back of my mind with Coral Castle. And then 3 years ago, next month, I believe, is when I actually visited Coral Castle in person with my father, my aunt, and my cousin. So I was really surprised at the time that they were on board with going. So I'm really happy about that. And a few days before the Coral Castle visit, we went to NASA. Okay. My dad wanted to go, and neither of us had been there. I wanted to see what was being presented at NASA for the official narrative. I got a lot of documentation, a lot of photographs. I don't know how much video I have, but I have a lot of photographs. And I do want to cover that in at least one video, just to show that I went there and this is what they're displaying to the public. It looks like an amusement park, honestly. It's like Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios. It looks like a theme park, NASA. But anyways, we'll get started now. Yeah, there's not too many people that I run into on a daily basis that knows about Coral Castle, unless we're talking about that they watched the show here. And so thank you for spreading Ed's story and keeping it alive, because there's only so much we can do. There's only so much research we can do on our own, but collaborating, talking with other people, that's always a good thing. Exchanging information on this But I'm hoping to be as detailed as possible here with everything, so that we're not leaving any stone unturned. And I do want to eventually make reels out of all of these episodes, but it's going to take forever. I need another person to do it for me. There's just no time in the day. If I make time for that, then I lose out on time on other things. So I just share the videos around, like, comment, because, you know, one of the big things that I noticed since I took a break from doing lives here is that not a single subscriber unsubscribed. So we're at 2,109 subscribers. I thank each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. And, yeah, that's all I gotta say. I'll get to everything that I had said I was going to get to before I went to break. There's other deep dive series I want to cover. But, we're gonna try to get back into the swing of things here this week. So Thursday's Bermuda Triangle. And I need to do a capper show for Let's Talk About It. Because, I'm just not interested anymore. You know, like when you just stop caring about things? Like, that's how I feel about that. These grifters, man. I don't know. I bring people on my channel and then they go all batshit crazy. I don't know what the fuck to say. I don't know. Only that when I bring people on here, I've vouched for them and I believe them at the time. Like, there's no way you could find out who's lying and who's telling the truth straight up every single time. Okay? And would you rather have me not done it at all? Maybe. But you know what we learned from all of doing this channel here is that you gotta vouch a little harder for people. Like, there was a lot of stuff that I needed to, like, look directly in the face with, and I wasn't. So, I mean, I admit that there were red flags, like questions I would ask my guests and then them not wanting to answer or taking a long time. You know, that's usually a big red flag. Or if they just completely ignore the question and I don't get a direct answer, they start talking about some other bullshit. But other than that, I don't know. I had to cancel my Zoom subscription because it's ran by people in India and they try to charge you a month in advance on things. So I cut it off because I wasn't using it. I wasn't bringing guests on for that short time here. So that's about it, really. There's if you want a whole character breakdown on what narcissism is, go watch Let's Talk About It. And there's a whole deep dive on narcissism with that. And people lying to gain clout that they don't deserve. Okay? But as far as this author goes, because that guy from the Let's Talk that I'm refusing to mention here, he's going to this guy's UFO conferences now. David Hatcher Childress. So, I don't know what's up with Childress, but that Matrix guy is trying to affiliate with him going to conferences. I don't know. I really don't know. It's beyond me at this point. Like I said, I don't care. I really don't care anymore. That's why there hasn't been another Let's Talk. And you guys all saw what that person said to me. Like, they just don't... No manners, no class. Just straight up abrasive. I don't know. They strike out while they say that you hit them. Oh! Ow, you hurt me! Like, that's the stuff we're dealing with here. Bunch of weak-minded individuals. Alright, yeah, missing time. I don't know what to say, man. There's some of my guests that, like, I'm just not bringing back. We got we got the Matrix guy that like I think he was off the rails when I met him, and he went even further off. He's like in the he went down into the valley, and then an earthquake happened and opened up and sucked them inside, and I don't know what he's doing now. This is all metaphorical, right? Like he went off the rails, and then he went down into the ravine by the time he was finished with me. So I've stepped away from other channels that I was guesting on because I don't agree with the format. I cannot sit there and watch people make fun of other people. Like, we have valid reasons to criticize Tom on this channel, and there's other people that like don't deserve the fucking light of day. And like, you know, I could say the same thing about that guy, but like these other channels that I've gone on, they're just covering different stuff now. Like they've gone against what they started setting out to do. Like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing now. So I also had somebody that was part of the whole Tom thing. There's this guy called Gray. You remember that? Well, he commented on a few of my like one of the interviews with Tom and one of the Let's Talk About It's. So I don't know, took them 3 years? What took you so long? That's what I'm gonna end up saying to them. And that was about 3 weeks ago. But, you know, like, I'm not feeding into this stuff anymore. It's just, it drains my energy. I don't have time to sit here for 5 hours and like do voices and shit and be grotesque and sexually perverse. Like, that's not me. Sorry. Like, I'm not doing that here. We're talking about the world grid. Talking about Coral Castle, anti-gravity. How did Ed move these stones into place? That's what we're talking about here. And I know I've said before I wouldn't talk about everything else that's going on on the channel here, but this is my like return live stream, so you're gonna hear a little bit about that. But let's get started. Let's get that slideshow. Something I could still say, and that I will be able to for the rest of my life, is that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. In that same note, people can present themselves as Jesus following, but they don't practice. They don't practice it. There's no, like, boundaries for where they could, you know, just stop bad behavior. Like, don't behave badly. It's the only thing you have to do. If it feels morally wrong, don't do it. All right. Let's get started. We're on page 96. And let me see real quick. Yeah, this is chapter 4. This is the Bruce Cathie chapter of this book. We're on page 96. Alright. I was just checking the stream, guys. Alright, let's get to this. Page 96 of Anti-Gravity in the World Grid. The harmonic values which occupied my full attention. 1703. This was the 4-figure harmonic of 170 billion 300 million, which is the expression in cubic minutes of arc of the mass or volume of the planet Earth and its surrounding atmosphere. The next number is 1439. A 4-figure harmonic of 143,900 minutes of arc per grid second, representing the speed of light in grid values. The third number, 2640. This figure, expressed in minute of arc values, is built into the polar portion of the grid structure as a geometric coordinate. I have found that when I matched these values harmonically, the results were as follows. Zeros to the right-hand side can be ignored in this form of harmonic calculation. And I'm just going to show you the calculation here. It's 1703 minus 264 equals 1439. And by the way, Missing Time, thank you for saying I didn't catch that right, or I didn't read it right away. Missing Time said I was able to catch up on a couple of missed episodes. I'm glad you were able to catch up. Yeah, I don't want to do too many where, like, people just fucking drop off and then never watch again because, like, they feel like they won't be able to catch up. So that's why I'm trying to keep these to under 2 hours so that we don't push people away. At least this way, if people want to watch, they start the first one or they start this one first and then go back and watch the rest. It's a little more manageable. So anyways, let's get back to this. So that equation, 1703 minus 264 equals 1439. In other words, the difference between the harmonic of mass and the harmonic of light was the harmonic of 264, or 2640. It was apparent that if my calculations were more accurately worked out, it should be possible to find out just what the 2640 figure referred to. After more calculation, the following terms were found. I'll just show this again. 17,025 Earth mass harmonic minus 2636 unknown harmonic equals 14,389 speed of light harmonic. Checking through some 5-figure mathematical tables, I found, to my surprise, that 2.6363 is the square root of 6.95 from the 1-10 square root tables. In harmonic calculation, decimal points as well as zeros to the right or left of a figure can be ignored. So it could be said that the square root of 695 was 2636. I could perceive from this the first steps necessary to solve the clusive equation. I had established that 695 was the harmonic reciprocal of the speed of light, or 1 over 1439, subject to the accuracy of my calculations at the time. I don't know why that was so hard to read. It was now possible to substitute algebraic values, although obviously a computer would be necessary to solve the true values to extreme accuracy. And eventually I think Bruce Cathie was able to use a computer to more accurately predict his grid lines. But in the early 80s, he wasn't able to, because the power with the computer just wasn't there yet. So we have another equation. If I were to just read this off without showing it, you guys would be like, what are you talking about? And yes, I still have not fixed this this autofocus here. I don't know why it's doing this. All right, 17,025, the Earth mass, minus 2,636, the square root of speed of light reciprocal, equals 14,389, which is the speed of light. And then you have, if c equals the speed of light and m equals mass, then m equals c plus the square root of 1 over c. Now, I don't understand this equation. I'll be blunt here. Like, I don't understand it. Like, we're getting this information, we're absorbing it. Hopefully we'll understand it later when the pieces of the puzzle comes together. But all I know is that Bruce is presenting here proven from repeated testing that these numbers fall on the Earth grid. And that through these calculations, using this globe model, you get exactly what he's talking about. Meaning, all of the mathematics that he's looking at puts these points on the map. You use mathematics with everything, you get this spot here for the Bermuda Triangle, which is also where Coral Castle is, just south of Miami. Okay? So that's what Bruce Cathie is basing a lot of his research on, and this drawing is from another couple that was researching all of this. That's from the first chapter of this book. Or the second chapter, I should say. The Planetary Grid. William Becker and Beth Higgins. That's who put this diagram together. Add the first part of a unified field equation in harmonic values. To take the next step, I first had to go back to Einsteinian theory, particularly the famous equation E equals mc squared, where E is energy, m is mass, and c the speed of light. Einstein declared that physical matter was nothing more than a concentrated field of force. What we term a physical substance is in reality an intangible concentration of waveforms. Now let's take a minute to digest that. I'll reread it again. Einstein declared that physical matter was nothing more than a concentrated field of force. So, like, nothing solid. And we understand that, right? Nothing is perpetually solid. Even diamond is not solid. And then you have water, which it's almost an immeasurable force. Water can cut through diamond at high enough pressure. So nothing is absolutely solid. That's one thing we all have to get on the same page with. Okay, and I think it's pretty easy too. If you look at some of this other stuff with the interdimensional entities, like, you have them walking through walls of people's houses, like, so there's all these different things here. There's a lot of mystery to this world, which just makes me excited, enthusiastic about all this. It makes me want to continue looking at all this stuff. What we term a physical substance is in reality an intangible concentration of waveforms. So everything is a waveform. Different combinations of structural patterns of waves unite to form the myriad chemicals and elements which in turn react with one another to form physical substances. Different waveforms of matter appear to us to be solid because we are constituted of similar waveforms which resonate within a clearly defined range of frequencies and which control the physical processes of our limited world. Einstein believed that m, the value for mass in the equation, could eventually be removed and a value substituted that would express the physical in the form of pure energy. In other words, by substituting for m, a unified field equation should result which would express in mathematical terms the whole of existence, including this universe and everything within it. Einstein maintained that the m in his equation could be replaced by a term denoting waveform. I had found a substitute for m in terms of waveforms of light, so the obvious step to me was to replace Einstein's m with the values of c found from the grid system. The results are as follows. We have the Einstein equation of E equals mc squared. We have the Cathie grid equation, which is m equals c plus the square root of 1 over c. Therefore, E equals c plus the square root of 1 over c times c squared. Harmonic equation 1. So these are equations where you could plug in different numbers that you'd want to, I guess, to find specific points on here. That's how I'm understanding this right now. I now had a harmonic unified field equation expressed in terms of light, or pure electromagnetic waveform. The key to the universe. The whole of existence. To the seen and the unseen, to forms, solids, liquids, and gases, the stars, and the blackness of space itself, all consisting of visible and invisible waves of light. All of creation is light. That's why they say we are light beings. It was now necessary to refine my calculations and attempt to discover a way to practically apply this initial equation. The equation is that from which an atomic bomb is developed. And remember what Cathie said? They can't detonate if they're not on the grid. By setting up derivatives of the equation in geometric form, the relative motions... Oh, hold on a minute. Yeah. I'm going to go back one sentence here. It was now necessary to refine my calculations and attempt to discover a way to practically apply this initial equation. The equation is that from which an atomic bomb is developed by setting up derivatives of the equation in geometric form. The relative motions of the waveforms inherent in the matter are zeroed, and convert from material substance back into pure energy. This explained the workings of a nuclear explosive device, but it still did not yield the secret of space-time propulsion. The grid system, which I discovered by the study of the movement of unidentified flying objects, was harmonically tuned to this basic equation. Yet a UFO does not disintegrate when it moves within the resonating fields of the network. There had to be an extension of the equation, which so far I had missed, that would produce the necessary harmonics for movement in space-time. Missing Time here says in the chat, he commented, I wish I had a better grasp on math. Same here, man. Should I reveal how much I actually do know about math? Because I don't know much. I know basic math. I can get pretty advanced with geometry. But, all that imaginary stuff, like calculus, forget about it. I can't even do it. It just does not gel with me. At least it didn't 20 years ago. I was struggling 20 years ago in high school. And yes, I was in high school 20 years ago. 2006. That was my junior year, probably one of the worst years in my life. My grandmother passed away that year. Totaled a car in the fall. Like that was a bad year. But as with everything, you know, life goes on. And I ended up in college taking geometry again. So, like, I could see the downward slope of the education industry. Like, it's just, I don't even want to think about what it's like today. They all have Chromebooks now. And we all have calculators on our phones now. How about that? That wasn't a thing back then. Alright, let's continue on. So we gotta get through this. I want to try to knock this out in the next hour and a half. But you know, even if you don't understand math that well, at least advanced mathematics, this is pretty basic. We just need to approach it with a fresh pair of eyes. That's it. If you're struggling here, please understand that, like, I'm not digesting this 100% as well. So, this is all a learning experience here. And if you do have questions about what I'm covering here, just feel free to comment. Especially if you're watching after the fact, please comment on this and share your thoughts. Ask questions. Like, I'll try to answer them as best as I can. So we're at the top of page 98. For those of you who are following along with the book. But I don't expect the majority of you to have this book. So that's why I'm reading it. In the polar areas of the grid, the geometric values of some of the coordinates appeared to be doubled up. The coordinate of 254, 558, 4412 was doubled in the diagonals of the polar squares, with all of its associated harmonics and other factors appeared to be doubled when the pattern was projected onto a flat plane. I reasoned that a way to check this idea was to increase the value of C in the equation and observe the changing harmonic of E to see what relative values might emerge. I thought at the time that a direct anti-gravitational harmonic might become evident, but my recent research has proved this line of thought to be incorrect. In terms of mathematical values, I found what I was hunting for in the form of two more equations. In the case of one of the equations, I erroneously believed that the derived harmonic value related to the reciprocal of gravity. I know now that what I had hold of was an equation related to the magnetic field of the Earth. The Earth being simply a huge magnet, a dynamo, wound with magnetic lines of force as its coils. Telescopically counted, and that's a new word for me, by the way, telescopically, counted to be 1257 to the square centimeter in one direction and 1850 to the square centimeter in the other direction. And in parentheses, this says eddy currents. End parentheses. Indicates that natural law has placed these lines as close together as the hairs on one's head. I guess if they actually went and did that according to it being magnetic lines separated as close as the hairs on the top of your head, this whole thing would be black. So there's just no way. This is showing like the major magnetic points, but I guess it's just layered together. The spectroscope shows that there is an enormous magnetic field around the sun, and it is the present conclusion of the best minds that magnetic lines of force from the sun envelop this earth, and extend to the moon. That everything, no matter what its form on this planet, exists by reason of magnetic lines of force. This I agree with, according to my own research. We are taught in our schools and universities that the magnetic field passes through one magnetic pole, then through the body, and out the other magnetic pole. I disagree with this explanation. I believe that the magnetic lines of force enter the body at the poles, then carry out a looped path through the body before passing out the opposite poles. I'm trying to understand this, that's why I'm pausing here. Oh. Imagine this is the magnetic current, and it's entering the top of the Earth. And that it can exit the bottom here. But before it exits the bottom, it does that. And then shoots out the bottom. So that's what it seems like he's trying to say. It's like it rattles around, it goes and does laps inside, and then shoots out the bottom. That's what it seems like to me. The flow is not in one pole and out the other, but in both poles and out both poles. There we go. Although the field intensity both ways is unbalanced. If we can visualize one line of force so that we can trace out its path, we can form an analogy by imagining it to be similar to a piece of string. First of all, we make a loop. Oh man, I should really have a piece of string here to demonstrate. All right, the best I can do is a phone charger string. All right, let's do that. Let's try this out. If we can visualize one line of force so that we can trace out its path, we can form an analogy by imagining it to be similar to a piece of string. First of all, we make a loop in a piece of string. Now imagine it being fed through a fixed position. Okay. So, something like that, right? Now imagine it being fed through a fixed position with the loop remaining stationary relative to a fixed point. With the position with the loop remaining stationary relative to a fixed point, with the length of string as the axis, we can now make the loop revolve in a path which is at 90 degrees to the movement of the string. The loop, in fact, would trace out a spherical shaped form in space. Well, because it'll go like that. So this is what we're looking at. So is this the magnetic current? And then it loops on itself like this, but it's also spinning? That seems to be like what we're talking about here, right? I think that makes a lot of sense. I just don't know the 90-degree portion here. With the length of string as the axis, we can now make the loop revolve in a path which is at 90 degrees to the movement of the string. The loop, in fact, would trace out a spherical shaped form in space. The lines of force of the magnetic field would form a lattice or grid pattern due to the spin of the planetary body. A good analogy would be an ordinary machine-wound ball of string, like a baseball. The machine of string, or the length of string, has taken on the form of a ball, and at the same time has formed a crisscross pattern. If we can again visualize this as a physical body being formed in space, then we can now imagine a small vortex being created at all of the trillions of points where the lines of force cross each other in the lattice pattern. Each vortex would manifest as an atomic structure and create within itself what we term a gravitational field. The gravitational field, in other words, is nothing more than the effect of relative motion in space. Matter is drawn towards a gravitational field, just as a piece of wood floating on water is drawn towards a whirlpool. Okay? So all of matter, you can compare it to a piece of wood floating on water. And when matter is drawn towards a gravitational field, it is like that piece of wood on the water floating toward a whirlpool. So like if something's flooded out and you got like a street flooded and then got a piece of wood floating, it's going to go down the sewer drain, right? Before it goes down, it's going to spin. And that's what the mass behaves like when it's drawn towards a gravitational field. The gravitational fields created by the vortexual action of every atom would combine to form the field of the completed planetary body. The world grid that I speak of is the natural grid that is formed by the lattice pattern of the interlocking lines of force. The unbalanced field of 1,257 lines of force per square centimeter in one direction and 1,850 in the other does not tell us very much in itself. But if we use the information to calculate the field strength over an area which has a harmonic relationship with the unified fields of space, and if the basic information is correct, we should find some mathematical values of great importance. At the time of writing my last book, I was not aware of the extreme importance of the values at that stage of accuracy. I was close enough to see how they fitted into the equations, but a further fine-tuning was necessary to reveal the knowledge locked within these two simple numbers. The basic unit for harmonic calculation is the geodetic inch, or 1/72,000th of a minute of arc. 1 minute of arc being 6,000 geodetic feet. And you see, again, this stuff is just starting to kind of go away from my comprehension here. I would have to see it visually. If we could see this stuff visually, it would help out a lot. Okay. I'm going to reread this so that I can understand it a little more. At the time of writing my last book, I was not aware of the extreme importance of the values at that stage of accuracy. I was close enough to see how they fitted into the equations, but a further fine-tuning was necessary to reveal the knowledge locked within these two simple numbers. The basic unit for harmonic calculation is the geodetic... Okay, so I already... Okay, I was getting a little confused with that. Where I was on the page here. Let's just reread it. The basic unit for harmonic calculation is the geodetic inch, or 1/72,000th of a minute of arc. 1 minute of arc being 6,000 geodetic feet. If we take the values of 1257 and 1850 lines of force per square centimeter and calculate the field strengths for 1 square geodetic inch, the field density is 8326.71764 and 12255.08864 lines of force, respectively. So he's just putting down here like the exact equations here, which I believe he at some point he used a computer. I don't know if he did by the time of this publication, but maybe we'll find out as we go. The fields being in opposition to each other. Yeah, okay, that's all. That's all. The fields being in opposition to each other. And these are... yeah, these two values that I just read out. The combined field density is equal to 20,581.80628, allowing for very slight variations in the conversion factors. The difference in field strengths, 12,255.08864 minus 8,326 minus... oh God, I'm sorry. You see how my brain just goes to mush with this shit? Okay. We'll try it again. 12,255.08864 minus 8,326.71764 is equal to 3,928.371. We could say that the resultant field density one way is equivalent to field A minus field B or 3,928.371 lines of force. This value I found to be the harmonic reciprocal of the grid coordinate 2,545.584412. The combined field strength of 20581.80628 lines of force can be harmonically associated with several other interesting facts to be demonstrated in other sections of this book. Well, I'm not sure if we'll get to those in the near future, because we're just reading this excerpt from this Childress book. So we'll have to figure... I have a few other publications here, but Bruce Cathie has multiple books published. And we read through one of them that was a combination of his earlier works. Alright. Let's carry on, though. There's a second harmonic equation we're going to be looking at here. We can now formulate another equation in order to demonstrate the association of the Earth's magnetic field with the speed of light. I'm just going to show it. And then I will check the comments here before we continue on. So harmonic equation 2 is field with A minus B equals, in parentheses, 2C plus the square root of 1 over 2C. That's in parentheses, so then that's times 2C squared. And you have to do all the multiplication inside the parentheses. Equals 3928.371 harmonic. And then where C, so he's giving the variables here. C equals 144,000 minus 90.9345139 equals 143,909.0655. The reduction in light speed of 90.3 or 90.934539 minutes of arc per grid second creates a very interesting factor, because 90.9345139 equals 3928.371 over 432. And 432 is one of the base harmonics. So let's get to the chat here. Andreas says, not surprising the Earth is magnetic in its own way since it blocks solar flares with its magnetic field. Yeah, and there's actually like live footage you can look at how it looks right now. There's a page on Facebook I follow called the Schumann Resonance, and they show that whole magnetic field and it getting hit with waves and stuff, and it's pretty interesting. Andreas also says, has its own magnetic fields, not waves. Alright, sorry about that. Alright, so I'll just reread your comment. Not surprising, the Earth is magnetic and has its own magnetic fields, since it blocks solar flares with its magnetic field. Yeah, no worries, Andreas. Holy moly. We read 4 pages. It took 40 minutes to read. So it's like 10 minutes a page. We gotta pick this up. We got 2 diagrams at the end. We got 6 pages of text here. So let's get going. We got a few more equations in here as well. That's why I split this up. Otherwise, this would have been like a 5-hour, 6-hour episode. Okay, page 100. The reduction in light speed is therefore equal in harmonic terms to the resultant field strength divided by the radius of spherical mass. In this case, the radius being the distance in minutes of arc from the Earth's center to the average height of the atmosphere. 432 being a harmonic of 4,320 minutes of arc. And I'm just going to take a quick note. I'm really digging the music today. In my last book, The Pulse of the Universe, I had shown this reduction to be equal to 3 times the gravity acceleration harmonic, as the values matched very closely within the accuracy of my work at that time. The relationship with gravity is still there, but not so directly obvious. We can now formulate a third equation by inserting the value for the speed of light at the Earth's surface. By mathematical conversion, this was found to be 143,795.77 minutes of arc per grid second, where 1 grid second was 1 over 97,200, or 1/97,200ths part of the time taken for 1 revolution of the Earth. I cannot comprehend this right now. I really apologize. I don't know what he's talking about here. Like, I can't visualize this. It's too difficult for now. Where 1 grid second was 1/97,200ths part of the time taken for 1 revolution of the Earth. I don't understand what that means. Harmonic equation number 3. Yeah, try internalizing this right now. 2693645 equals the square root of 2c plus the square root of 1 over 2c in parentheses times, also in parentheses, 2c squared, where c equals 144,000 minus 204.23 equals 143,795.77. At least Bruce understands it, right? Like, how... Alright. In my third book, I had again used the gravity factor as the basis for the reduction, making the value equal to 6g. Don't know what 6g means. It's a capital G. This is from 1987, so it doesn't have anything to do with our cell phone numbers. I feel that this new approach, based on extended knowledge, is the more correct one. Although, as above, the gravity factor is not so obvious. I believe that there is yet another factor in the light reduction process to be found, but this will require further research. The research never ends. You see, Bruce isn't here with us anymore. He passed away, I want to say 16 years ago. Like 2010, I think he passed away. Like, roughly. So Bruce isn't with us anymore. But we, here, are carrying on his work. It's been 1 year. He spent his entire life doing this. So the least we can do here is try to get this out to as many people as possible so that we can understand what we're dealing with. Like, where are we? What are we doing here? We're being lied to about the energy of where we live. This whole thing is based on energy and magnetics and light. If it's not completely fiction, I would like to see visually how light can get pulled by gravitational force. Like into a black hole. Like, I've heard this probably the same as you guys have with how black holes suck everything up, including light. Where does it go? Many questions. Anyways, let's continue. The research will be extended until all the answers are in, but the results appear to back up my belief that as the harmonic of light is fractionally decreased, the energy which is released is converted to form physical matter. So the lower the frequency of the harmonic of light, that's when energy is released and is converted to form physical matter. We're in a dense world here. From this, we can get a glimmering of how an unidentified flying object is able to create a series of resonating frequencies which alter the physical properties within and around it, thus causing a change in the space-time frames of reference in relation to the Earth or other planetary body. As I have stated in my previous publications, natural law is not erratic. The universe does not rely on chance to manifest within itself the physical substances which we perceive and call reality. A very strict, ordered system of mathematical progressions is necessary to create the smallest speck of matter from the primeval matrix of space. During my years of research into the complexities of the Earth grid system, I have gradually built up a picture in my mind of the possible geometric combinations necessary to form matter from resonating, interlocking waveforms. Matter and antimatter are formed by the same wave motions in space. The waves travel through space in a spiraling motion and alternately pass through positive and negative stages. Matter is formed through the positive stage or pulse, and the antimatter through the negative pulse. Each spiral of 360 degrees forms a single pulse. So like boom boom, positive negative, positive negative. I assume that's visually how that works. It's a very rudimentary form of visuals here. The circular motion of an electron about the nucleus of an atom is therefore an illusion. The relative motion of the nucleus and electrons through space gives us or gives the illusion of circular motion. The period during the formation of antimatter is completely undetectable, since obviously all physical matter is manifesting at the same pulse rate, including any instruments or detectors used to probe atomic structures. The period or frequency rate between each pulse of physical matter creates the measurement which we call time, as well as the speed of light. At the particular position in space of which we are aware at any given moment. And the frequency rate of positive and negative pulses, or if the frequency rate of positive and negative pulses is either increased or decreased, then time and the speed of light vary in direct proportion. So let's break this down here. We have matter. This matter has a positive stage or pulse, and then an antimatter negative pulse. And each spiral of 360 degrees forms a single pulse. And then if the frequency rate of going back and forth like that, the positive, negative, if the frequency rate of positive and negative pulses is either increased or decreased, then time and the speed of light vary in direct proportion. So if you slow down the frequency of these things, you can slow down time. Right? Looked like one of my slideshow pictures didn't load. That's not good. Okay. This concept would explain time as a geometric, as Einstein theorized it to be, or Einstein theorized it to be. A rough analogy of physical existence can be made by reference to a strip of motion picture film. Each frame or static picture on a film strip may be likened to a single pulse of physical existence. The division between one frame and the next represents a pulse of antimatter. When viewed as a complete strip, each frame would be seen as a static picture. Say one at either end of the strip. Then the past and the future can be viewed simultaneously. However, when the film is fed through a projector, we obtain the illusion of motion and the passage of time. The divisions between the static pictures are not detected by our senses because of the frequency or speed of each projection on the movie screen. But by speeding up or slowing down the projector, we can alter the apparent time rate of the actions shown by the film. To continue this analogy, our consciousness is the projector. The conscious, quote, I am, end quote, part of our individuality passes from one pulse of physical matter to the next within the framework of the physical structure which we term our body, thus giving the illusion of constant reality and the passing of time. It is logical to assume that we have a twin stream of consciousness on the antimatter side of the cycle, which in fact creates a mirror image of our own individual personality. This postulate has already been put forward by scientists. The frequency of manifestation of both streams of consciousness. Hold on. The frequency of manifestation of both streams of consciousness, that is, the pulse and the minus I am, would position our awareness of the illusion of reality at a particular point in space and time. In other words, if the frequency of pulse manifestation is altered, even fractionally, our awareness of reality in the physical sense will shift from one spatial point to another. In fact, we would travel from one point in space to another without being aware that we had traveled distance in the physical sense. This would be space travel in the truest sense. Did you guys understand that? I'll reread this. In other words, if the frequency of pulse manifestation is altered, even fractionally, our awareness of reality in the physical sense will shift from one spatial point to another. In fact, we would travel from one point in space to another without being aware that we had traveled, or that we had traversed distance in the physical sense. This would be space travel in the truest form. Almost, it would appear to our consciousness as teleportation, right? I don't think with teleportation, you have to have the end point. And it travels like a string. But all your conscious sees is you're here, and then you're here. But there was something that made you go from there to there. Let's look at another analogy. We can consider a simple spiral spring representing the wave of motion in an electron through space. Unfortunately, I do not have a string here. I don't have a spring here. Sorry. Every second, 360-degree spiral of the spring represents the path of the electron in physical matter, while the opposite applies to antimatter. Not sure what that means. The theory outlined above explains why light has been described as being caused by both a wave motion and a pulse. You can almost say the pulse is what starts the light to travel along the waveform, if that makes sense. The theory outlined above explains why light has been described as being caused by both a wave motion and a pulse. Both explanations are correct. A pulse of light is manifested when the energy level of the atomic structure is altered by outside influences. And in parentheses it says that it's the theory of Max Planck. M-A-X, last name Planck, P-L-A-N-C-K. Let's reread that. A pulse of light is manifested when the energy level of the atomic structure is altered by outside influences. In the physical plane, the electron of the atomic structure appears to jump from orbit, or it appears to jump from its orbit. According to my belief, the electron does not jump orbit. But this is the illusion we obtain, since we are not equipped to perceive the path of the electron during the antimatter cycle. What actually happens is that the radius of the spiraling motion is increased or decreased in order to absorb or release the energy imparted to or removed from the atomic structure. So I guess more energy is a wider coil, and less energy is a more condensed or slimmer coil. So you have more energy in it, it's going to be bigger, obviously, but it's going to be a bigger spiral or a bigger spring. Like, if there was a lot of matter in it, it would almost be like your suspension in your car. That type of spring. If there's less matter in it, you can compare it to like the little spring inside of a pen. And it would adjust accordingly. And that would be the same spring. That would be the same thing, just depending on how much mass. And we're talking about the energy and the electrons in the atomic structure. But this is the illusion we obtain since we are not equipped to perceive the path of the electron during the antimatter cycle. What actually happens is that the radius of the spiraling motion is increased or decreased in order to absorb or release the energy imparted to or removed from the atomic structure. If the energy is imparted, then the electron must extend orbit in order to obtain balance in the system, and vice versa. Light or any other radiant energy above or below light frequency is therefore manifested by undetectable changes in the radius of the spiral motion of the electron during the antimatter cycle. If this hypothesis is correct, movement from one point in space to another point, regardless of apparent distance, in other words, true space travel, is completely feasible. By manipulating the frequency rate of the matter-antimatter cycle, the time and speed of light can be varied in direct proportion to any desired value. All the mathematical evidence amassed so far indicates that the maximum number of individual elements to be found in the universe will be 144. So 144 elements. Each of these elements will have, in theory, 6 isotypes, which will make up a completed table of separate substances numbering 1008. An isotope is an atom of the same element, which has a different nuclear mass and atomic weight. Mathematically, the progression would create 144 octaves of separate substances, giving a theoretical value of 1,152. The difference between the total number of substances, 1008, and the harmonic value in octaves, 1,152, would be 144, the light harmonic. Once the precipitation of physical matter has occurred, the buildup of substances takes place according to a very well-ordered mathematical sequence. Light waves, guided seemingly by superior intelligence, form intricate interlocking grid patterns which graduate from the simple to the more complex, as the elements from hydrogen at the lower end of the scale to element 144 come into being. So what do you all think out there? Is light energy intelligent? Is there, like, we know there's intelligent design behind everything, but, like, is there a consciousness behind light? It's a question. Let me know what you think in the comments. When we think of reality, we must think of mass in relation to any physical manifestation, and the smallest particle of physical matter that we are aware of is the electron. Therefore, electron mass must be the starting point in our quest for a feasible theory to explain the structure of matter. The average radius of action of the electron around the atomic nucleus must also have a constant harmonic value in order to set up a system of expanding spheres which encompass the structure of each element. As the number of protons in the nucleus increases with the buildup of each element, the spherical space which houses the electron shell must expand to accommodate an equal number of electrons. Although the protons and electrons are nothing more than extremely concentrated waveforms, we consider them as physical particles in order to build up a picture of our model. As each electron cloud or shell expands outward from the nucleus, we find that it can accommodate only 8 electrons. The shell is then filled up, and another expansion must take place in order to form a new shell or harmonic zone, which again builds up to a maximum of 8 electrons. As the magnitude of the harmonic resonance intensifies, heavier and heavier elements are produced until we reach a maximum of 144 elements. The light harmonic is then equal and the cycle has been completed. The whole series is a repetition of octaves and waveforms, forming more and more complex structures. In my earlier work, I had assumed that the harmonic radius of the atom was equal to the mass ratio of the proton and electron. I now realize that although I was on the right track, the theoretical model demonstrated was partly in error. This necessitated another search into the physics books, and I now feel that the following calculations based on the experimental values are getting close to the truth. It would be logical to base the harmonic interaction on the geometric structure of the hydrogen atom. If the harmonic equivalence can be derived from the basic values established by experimental physics and remain within the laid down tolerances, then almost certainly a new theory should be evident, especially if the harmonic values closely match those found in the unified equations previously demonstrated. The distance between the electron and the proton in the hydrogen atom is approximately 5.3 times 10 to the negative 11th power meter, M-E-T-R-E, in parentheses, Physics Part 2, Halliday and Resnick, in parentheses. So he's citing another publication here. I have discovered that a value of 5.297493 times 10 to the negative 11th power meter fits in very neatly with the previous established harmonic terms. If we convert this value into its geometric equivalent, then 5.297493 times 10 to the negative 11th meter equals 17.15150.523 times 10 to the negative 11th geodetic feet, which equals 205.8180628 times 10 to the negative 11th geodetic inches. So I'm just going to show you that. So that's a mouthful. There we go. The radius of the hydrogen atom is therefore very obviously tuned to the harmonic value of 20,581.80628, which is the number of magnetic lines of force per square geodetic inch. The diameter of the hydrogen atom would be 411.6361256. If we calculate the circumference of the atom in terms of harmonic geodetic feet, then 17.15150523 times 10 to the negative 11th geodetic feet radius equals 34.30301 harmonic diameter equals 107.7660 harmonic circumference. If we allow spacing on this circumference for 8 electron positions, we have 107.7660 divided by 8 equals 13.47 units. But an electron only has half a spin value, the other half taking place during the antimatter cycle. So 13.47 times 2 to allow for the double cycle equals 26.94. Allowing for the accuracy of the conversion factors, etc., would make the harmonic geometrics of the hydrogen atom comply fairly closely with the geometric energy value derived from the unified equation 2693645. A computer program set up for curved geometry should, in theory, show a perfect match. We can now use the hydrogen atom as a baseline to form a theory regarding the formation of the complete atomic table of elements. I believe that the harmonic radius of 205.8180628 units would remain constant throughout the whole range of elements. The orbits of electrons in all substances taking up harmonically spaced positions to the power of 10. In other words, by shifting the decimal point to the right or left in this basic harmonic, the orbital radius of all electrons can be calculated. And then it says, see diagram 5. Showing the harmonic waveform which creates an atom of matter and antimatter in alternate pulses. Let's just take a look at this. I wonder if, like the 3D element here is not at play, but I wonder if between the circles, that line is going behind these circles, and when it's passing over in front of them, like you see what I'm talking about? Let's look at the direction of the movement here. Like it meets here, and then the antimatter is going against it. But direction of movement, it's going like this. So it phases between matter and antimatter on a continuous line of motion. That's what it's showing there. We're almost finished here. This would apply to the whole range of 144 elements and their isotopes. Physical reality as we perceive it being manifested by the concentrated interlocking of harmonic waveforms, which are built up progressively from a foundation of fundamental wave packets. The square of the diameter of the hydrogen atom, 411,636,1257, is equal to the harmonic of mass at the center of a light field, 1694443. This value also shows up in the cycle of element formation due to the introduction of neutrons into the atomic nucleus. It is stated in the physics books that the maximum number of electrons that can be concentrated in the atomic nucleus is 1.6 times the number of protons. The theory of harmonic formation agrees with this. If the ratio of protons and neutrons in the basic element is taken as 1:1, then each isotope is built up due to the introduction of neutrons. We have the mathematical progression of 1:1, 1:1, 1, 1 to 1.2, 1 to 1. Okay, so it goes from, it just adds a 1 decimal point to each. 1 to 1, 1 to 1.1, 1 to 1.2, 1 to 1.3, 1 to 1.4, 1 to 1.5, 1 to 1.6 for the element and the 6 isotopes. Then as the harmonic increases to 1 to 1.694443 and above, towards 1 to 1.7, we get the formation of the next higher element. The cycle would then repeat itself. And just so you can visually see what I read out loud here. Okay. The rest mass of the proton is given as 1.67252 times 10 to the negative 27th power kg. I guess that's kilogram. And a mass ratio of 1836 is laid down for the proton and electron. I believe that the harmonic values approach those found in the unified equations when the atomic structure is accelerated towards the speed of light. According to Einstein, the mass increases, and I believe the mass of the proton increases towards the 169,443 harmonic. If the energy level is built up above this point, a condition would be reached where a change in physical state would occur. That is, the harmonic would be approaching 1.7 to 1.7018. The surface mass harmonic for an atomic structure, and a change would be triggered. A gravitational connection with mass becomes evident when the normal gravitational acceleration is converted into grid equivalence. The physics books state that gravity acceleration varies according to latitude on the Earth's surface, and also with altitude, or distance from the center of the Earth. The variation at sea level from 0 degrees to 90 degrees altitude is equal to 32.087829 feet per second squared to 32.257711 feet per second squared. And again, I don't understand how you apply these to this, so we're just following along to what Bruce is saying here. I decided to calculate the grid gravity acceleration at latitude 52.8756 degrees, which is 37.1244 degrees from the geometric pole. The reciprocal harmonic of this position, 371244, is equal to 2693645. The interpolated standard gravity acceleration at this latitude is 32.194417 feet per second squared. The grid time factor I discovered has stood up to scrutiny over the years and is based on 27 periods for one revolution of the Earth. Normally, we use 24 periods of 1 hour each. The 27 periods I call 27 grid hours. A grid hour is slightly shorter than a normal hour and is divided into 60 grid minutes, each of which is equal to 60 grid seconds. Therefore, one revolution of the Earth, we have a standard time of 86,400 seconds as against a grid time of 97,200 grid seconds. The ratio is 8 to 9. And I'm just going to show this next equation here. So 32.194417 times 6,000 times 8 over 6,080. You see, I don't know how to read that. Sorry. That's a little wild. Equals 28.24071667. I'll just keep this up because there's other. If this acceleration factor is multiplied by 6, then 28.24071667 times 6 equals 169.4443. 169.4443 harmonic equals C plus the square root of 1 over C, and that's in parentheses, where C equals 143,000 minutes of arc per grid second. So harmonically, gravity acceleration is equal to C plus the square root of 1 I mean, are we putting fractions in here? I don't know. At the center of the light field, forming spherical mass. As my own research has shown me that physical reality is manifested by the harmonic nature of light, it appears logical that a vehicle constructed to the principles of harmonics will be required to set up the space-time fields necessary. If this is so, then the first criterion will be that the vehicle must resonate in perfect harmony with the complete table of elements in our physical universe. If it does not, then it would be more than probable that any element or particle of matter not in harmonic resonance with the vehicle structure or payload would be left behind when the space-time field was activated. The results would be embarrassing, to say the least. It would be impractical to construct a vehicle made from an alloy of the whole range of 144 elements in the theoretical atomic table. Apart from this, such an alloy is no doubt a physical impossibility. The clue which suggests a method of overcoming this problem is the way matter is built up in octaves of waveforms. If an octave of elements could be combined, which would set up a resonating field tuned to all the elements in the table and the unified fields of space, then maybe we would have a method of crashing the time barrier. That's interesting. So an alloy of all 144 elements is a physical impossibility. Well, I guess so. If you have some of the elements being gas, you really can't do that, right? And then gas can turn into liquid form, but like you have to sub-freeze it. I put forward the following proposal for consideration. If an octave of elements is the answer, let us make a selection from the theoretical table of elements of 144. If we divide by 8, we get divisions of 18 units. Therefore, we will select each of the elements we require, 18 units apart, as follows. Atomic number 18, argon. 36, krypton. 54, xenon. 72, hafnium. That's Hafnium. Atomic number 90, thorium. 108, X. 126, Y, and to the side it says undiscovered elements. And then atomic numbers 144, Z. And the total number is 648. And that's a separation of 18 units per atomic number. It can be seen that the total harmonic value of the atomic numbers of the combined elements is 648. The square root of this number is 25.455.84412, the harmonic of which is found in the polar sections of the world grid. 3 new elements just recently discovered have atomic numbers of 116, 124, and 126. Do the scientists know something? And are they now looking for numbers? And they are now looking for numbers 108 and 144. And now we have diagrams. Here we got diagram 4 showing the harmonic wave formation of a basic element and the 6 associated isotopes. Diagram 5 we already covered, showing the harmonic waveform which creates an atom of matter and antimatter and alternate pulses. We'll show that one more time. A point on the surface of the spherical mass would be rotated through the equivalent of 371.2766511 degrees for each of the matter and antimatter cycles. In parentheses, 742.5533022 degrees for the double cycle, in parentheses. Spiral pi, in this case, would be equal to 3.24. So let's just show that as well. So that's labeled A, B, and C, the 3 lines there that are pointing through the circles. Solid is the proton in the center. Hollow is the electrons, and you can see the dashes between the circles. So those are all electrons around. And I'm just going to show this instead of reading this ABC thing. He's just applying different numbers to this diagram. That's all he's doing. The circumference remains a constant harmonic of 107766085, giving an electron spacing harmonic of 1347076. By doubling this harmonic to allow for the matter and antimatter cycle, we have a value of 2694, which closely complies with the unified field equation of 2693645. Or, actually, there's a 3 inside of a parentheses here. A full computer program should make these values match exactly. Harmonic values based on the hydrogen atom. And that's what the diagram was. And that is it. We have finished Chapter 4. So Chapter 5, next week, we'll be covering the Philadelphia experiment. Just give me one moment here. Yeah, so next week's show, we're going to cover the entire chapter of the Philadelphia experiment, because it's much bigger text size. I'll just show you a comparison. We got this size of text for next week. But what we just read today was this size. So it's going to be a lot less dense next week. And let's see here. Oh, there's going to be a lot to cover here. Whew. Nah, we can do it, though. It's going to be 20 pages, but it's bigger text. So I think we can still fit it within 2 hours. There you have it. We're now this far in. Nearly halfway. I think by next week we'll be halfway in. Alright, guys. I'm tired. I'm gonna get out of here. Thank y'all for being here. And until the next one. Class dismissed.